And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It feels like it's like the last big AAA game release of the year now in December. After like a year of big AAA game misfires, this is a Bethesda and Xbox published game developed by Machine Games, the people behind the great Wolfenstein New Order and New Colossus. This is something different though. It's like an officially licensed Lucasfilm Indiana Jones game. A big deal because Indiana Jones used to have a pretty big presence in the video game world. Not counting the Lego games, this is the first full indie game in like 15 years. And thankfully, in my opinion, this was worth the wait because I've really enjoyed this game. It's a bit clunky, but it's a good old-fashioned video game and a damn good Indiana Jones adventure. So let's talk and break it all down. And just so you know, I've been playing a review copy on Xbox Series X, so that's the footage you're seeing on screen here, and it's all as spoiler-free as possible. Set up first, the Great Circle takes place between Raiders and the Last Crusade in 1937. After like a bad guy steals this ancient artifact from the college he works at, Indiana Jones sets out on an adventure that takes him to the Vatican City, Egypt, and a couple other places. He gets mixed up with all kinds of characters, some familiar and some new, and the game does a really good job continuing that feel of like Indy having a buddy in every single country around the globe. New characters succeed in actually feeling natural to the franchise. One of the main villains, this Nazi archaeologist, is absolutely incredible here, just really hamming it up in all the right ways. Indy's companion, an Italian journalist named Gina Lombardi, also really stands out, has a character arc, and doesn't feel like a forced sidekick or anything. It's all natural. With these new characters and this plot, you really get to see the intellectual side of Indy really challenged here. You know, he's not just the punchy guy with the whip, but the guy with encyclopedic knowledge of ancient civilizations, and he can speak a ton of languages. It's really cool to see flexed on display here, and he kind of spars in the realm of knowledge with people. All the performances are great, and Troy Baker, man, he really knocks it out of the park as Indy. I was skeptical, but it works wonderfully. He doesn't overdo it. It doesn't feel too forced. It's done just right enough for you to kind of disappear into this world, you know? Story-wise, that's about all I can really say. Other than that, I think it's mostly a success. It's a solid mystery, a globe-trotting adventure bringing you to a few exotic locations and ancient mysteries and tombs and all manner of bad guys. It checks all the boxes and feels like a good return to indie classic form. Something we haven't gotten from the movies in quite some time. The thing I'm just trying to get here is that it feels like the game gets it. Now, as for the actual video gamey part of it, it's a well-made, solid, somewhat simple affair. You explore, you interact, you collect, you solve puzzles, you sneak around, and you fight. It kind of feels like a very, very light Dishonored or like a baby mode Thief mixed with a dash of Hitman and Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay. And those are all like my favorite words, so this is good. Stealth is very simple. You can crouch around in the shadows, you can take some enemies out from behind, you can toss objects to distract them. That's really it. There are some variations here and there, but it's mostly a very simple, workman-like approach to stealth aimed at some improvising, you know, picking up a shovel you like find right in front of you or a bottle to then smack it over a bad guy's head, knock him out, and then stash away his body in the corner. Typically, you do this to hopefully get through to where you're going, but usually you'll get spotted and it all devolves into chaos. The fist fights, the hand-to-hand combat is awesome. They take a minute to get used to. You know, Indy punches really fast, almost too fast, but the punches are good. You hear the big classic sound and really feel the Harrison Ford style punch. They look good with the animation. They feel good on screen. All of it. It's just really nice. Along with that, you're grabbing dudes and punching them in the face. You're pushing them into other enemies or off cliffs, and you're blocking. So time it just right, and you open up an enemy for counter punches. This is a little squishy, but it works. Oh, and you can also like hold the left or right punch buttons to charge your hits for more power. This combat is very simple and steps dangerously close to being repetitive, but I didn't feel it until really the end of the journey. The satisfying hits, the way enemies look as they get up in your face, their expressions, bruises on their face, and how they collapse after a right hook is just way more satisfying than any other first-person hand-to-hand combat I've experienced in quite a few years. And what helps are the variations too. Getting surrounded? Well, pull out your revolver and blast the guy. Although ammo is fairly limited, so be careful. Grab something off of a table and throw it at a guy to stun him. Or whack a guy in the face with a shovel, push him into his friend. And then, of course, you have the whip.
Das ist Sammy!
The whip can do a lot. It can knock weapons out of enemies' hands, which is always good in a pinch. It can also pull enemies' feet out from under them, stun them. It can also pull them towards you, and then you can then grab them and punch them in the face more. Now, all this stuff you're doing, you're managing stamina. So while you can throw punches fast or whip around like crazy, you'll run out of stamina real quick. So the game encourages deliberate, calculated moves. Running, using objects, throwing a punch, really using your whole tool set. It all works really, really well, especially once you get it all figured out. But my only complaint is the enemy AI. These enemies are occasionally painfully unintelligent, man. In stealth, they're really goofy and don't see or hear too well and are pretty easy to manipulate, but then sometimes it feels like they have eagle sight. So sometimes it's a little bit inconsistent. But the bigger thing is squaring up against enemies when everyone is alerted. Enemies often together pretty much run towards you in a straight line to try and punch you. This is where encounters can feel a little bit clunky, a little bit messy, and not as cool looking or fun. This is just really for the melee focused enemies. Obviously, that's all they can do is punch, but like it feels a little silly sometimes, especially when you just use your revolver to shoot them all in a row as they walk towards you or walk through a room. Later on, it gets better when you face enemies with guns and melee because it shakes things up and some enemies will take cover sometimes and things get more dangerous. Also, I will say, if we're talking about AI, companions are really annoying. They are always in your way, it feels like. Standing in a doorway blocking you, or standing in a stairwell blocking you, or pacing around directly in front of the puzzle on a table that you're trying to solve. It's kind of frustrating. And actually, it feels like an older video game problem. I haven't had this issue in a while. But AI stuff aside, either way, it's a game enjoyed with the difficulty ramped up, I'll say. Indie is not invincible, and it's a good feeling, actually. There's also separate puzzle difficulty and map guidance options as well. And the puzzles are thankfully pretty good. They walk a fine line between being fairly challenging and not so bad. Just enough to make you feel smart. But they all at least feel cool and clever and kind of movie-like. You're moving statues, a musical cue happens, you're using reflective light, you're jumping over booby traps, all the stuff you'd expect, all the stuff you'd want here. And some of the side puzzles are much, much more challenging, and I ended up racking my brain quite a bit. Oh, and the whip does come in handy for exploration. The animations sometimes look a little goofy, a little clunky, but Indie will use that thing to grab puzzles and stuff while also swing and climb. And it's always pretty satisfying.
Yeah! Pretty sure it's literal!
I'm trapped here!
Hang on! I'll figure this out. gotta be a test.
Come on, you'll pass it to me. I'll take it to the other side.
Here.
Meet me on the other side.
But I buried the lead here, man. This is a surprisingly big game. I actually feel like they undersold it a little bit. You're dropped into multiple open zone locations that were just bigger and more detailed than I expected. These open zone locations you're dumped into serve as kind of hubs. Like you can walk around, find clues, find new mysteries, engage with NPCs, and then you can also go into main missions or wander around and find side missions and little mysteries that are all surprisingly substantial, to the point where sometimes the line actually blurred for me as to like what was a side quest and what was a main quest, specifically because of how well written some of the side stuff is. It feels like it makes sense to the story, or at least the environment. The side objectives know how to read the room, and with that just kind of comes a natural deepening of the story. This stuff is really, really well done. I review games, you know, I gotta blast through them fast, and I hope I can usually get some side quests in along the way to give some judgment. But here, I found myself naturally wanting to scour every surprisingly big environment, finding all the clues, solving the little puzzles, reading documents, stumbling into like these hidden dungeons, side stuff, all because it was all interesting and well done. I wanted to see it all. I wanted to be around here. And also, it was all rewarding because there is actually a progression system for indie. It's pretty basic, but it feels necessary and helped with like rewarding my exploration. You explore off the beaten path and you'll find these books. These books give indie special abilities, like, the chance to get up once after being knocked out, or like maybe you climb faster, or to carry more health buff items, carry more ammo. Then when you have these books, you can earn the unlocks from them by spending these adventure points. These points that you like naturally accrue through progressing and doing side stuff, and really just checking everything out. You can also find money, and you can spend this money at shops to buy even more of these books and even special upgrades to your health and stamina meters. So adventure points and money are the main currencies, and they're fun to earn, but the books really just surprised me. I figured there would only be a few. It's Indiana Jones. How many upgrades can he get? How many, But there are quite a bit, and a lot of the upgrades felt really nice and pretty significant. So I found my ass exploring a lot for this, but also for the complexity of the worlds they built. You can even get disguises. So like you walk around the Vatican as a priest, or a digger at a work site, or a Nazi at a military base. So these sneaky little Mission Impossible diversions, add a fun little layer to these worlds. Worlds that aren't like 100-hour open world massive things, but manageably sized and densely packed with good, interesting, and worthwhile stuff. Not like filler or too much fluff, but actual stuff you want to see as you just spend more time in this convincing Indiana Jones world. I will say, on the visual front, it looks pretty good, but sometimes lighting on the characters would look a little weird, or I'd have the occasional graphical flicker that would look weird. Again, this was on Xbox where I captured this. I can't speak to the PC version or even that PS5 version that comes out next year, as they said, because I just haven't got my hands on them. I do know the system requirements are pretty high on PC, though, so I'm looking forward to testing that out after launch. But really, if you can't tell, all the issues aside, I did really enjoy this game. While it is simple, it's smart. It doesn't overdo anything and tells a good adventure with some big set piece moments, well-directed cutscenes, incredible music, and decent visuals. It's a good old-fashioned video game, man, a single-player adventure, and they brought the fun and adventuring back to Indiana Jones, and it just feels really good. I know Harrison Ford won't live forever, but his character can in the digital world. I just enjoy that way more than a weird CGI deepfake movie face. But hey, that's it before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion. And now I want to hear yours down in the comments. Really just your experience with Indiana Jones. Are you a diehard, a casual viewer? Do you have a leather jacket and a hat at home? Let's talk about this. Maybe you're buying it on Steam. Maybe you're just checking out it on Game Pass. I want to know how you're coming at this one. But let's talk about this stuff down in the comments. We'll be down there as much as possible, but of course, if you want to find me and yell at me directly, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all those places at Jake Baldino. But thank you for coming around here. Thank you for watching another year of Before You Buys. We still got a couple more planned for the rest of the year, but we appreciate it. Clicking the like button helps us out. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Village steps.
C'è qualcuno, so. Così si fa!
Indy, is that you?
Company command! This is first platoon! We've lost the square! We can't hold it!
In darkness, I shall be light. In times of